Good Friday morning. Welcome to Ice Age TV, or should it be EV Age TV? Yeah, we've had that conversation many a times, haven't we? Yeah, if you're new to the channel, this is my usual morning conversations. I just like to talk about things I think about. Let me kind of know that conversation. For those who haven't, yeah, I just like to make Sunday morning conversations and talk about them and share my ideas and views. And come on back here. And it's always about the dogs. The dogs. What do you expect when you have dogs? I mean, sincerely, when you have dogs, what do you expect you're going to do? I mean, do you understand that? If you're a dog owner, yeah, expectations. And yes, that is actually what I'm going to talk about is what do you expect? Expectations. Boy, that is such a broad word. And I thought to myself this morning when I woke up, wow, what we're witnessing in today's society of expectations. Oh my gosh, that's just how us humans operate when we expect things. Yeah, so I get to think to myself, when you go out and buy a car, you kind of expect to kind of get this feeling, I'd hope excitement, adventures. And I was seeing myself this morning, come on girl, come on. What drives us to buy cars? And it says we have expectations of what we think we're going to get out of the car that we buy. Hey, last night I cleaned the Maverick all up. One guy posted on the video I showed me doing this, and he's like, that truck's basically ugly as heck now. Yeah, it definitely takes away. I mean, I've never been a big cap guy, because once you put a cap on a vehicle, I mean, in all sincereness, any cap on any truck, in my eyes, the truck then doesn't look like a truck. So it isn't just a Maverick, it's just any, what's your expectations on that? Come on, girl. Get in here, come on. Yeah, I mean, so, yeah, the talk is, what are you expecting? I mean, that's the thing. I have all these cars that I'm, oh, here we go. Phone's already ringing. Who's calling me now? Just doesn't end. Oh, interrupt. Yeah, it just doesn't, what do you expect, right? What do you expect when you're a parent and you have a business and blah, blah, blah? You're going to be on call. You're on call all the time, right? Yeah, so it's the distractions. As I talk, it's distractions. So get the door closed? I don't know. Well, they can get the door closed. About me trying to finagle things here, and so yeah. Man, it's too much stuff. Yeah, so I got to thinking about cars. Let's get up here in the office. Come on, dog. Watch out. Get away. Get away. Come on, move it. Yeah, so I got to think about cars this morning. I thought, wow, what makes people that are like me, he's as radical as me. I mean, I'd be so curious to know if anybody out there knows somebody that has bought over 20 vehicles in 1 year. I mean, I'd just like to know. I'm not talking about a car dealer or wholesaler. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just an average person that has gone out and then has purchased over 300 cars in their lifetime. And if you add the motorcycles and other toys in, I'll be over 30 vehicles this year. And the year's not even over. I could definitely buy 2-3 more vehicles before the year's out. Yeah. I mean, I already got another vehicle, so. But what drives that? Even for me. So I think to myself, expectations. I buy all these cars, and my biggest challenge is I get bored with them. But it's so funny if you look at me, being that the funny is just a slang. If you look at me, I buy cars, and then I sell them because I get bored with them, but then I buy them back. Wow, could you even imagine if I was the womanizer guy? Can you even imagine how many women would have had in my life? That isn't who I am, but I'm just saying, that's the type of thing, other people have that challenge. You hear them, how many marriages some people had? This goes on and on and on. So what drives the expectations of just for me and myself? What is going on? That I buy things all the time. Then I just kind of I lose that fun factor or flavor. I mean, right now, I have now bought 6 Hellcats. Yeah. Since 2016, I am now at 6 Hellcats. That's 6 years. And it's 6 years. I mean, oh my gosh. So I just got to thinking, what goes on with us as individuals? We create these expectations, but then in the end, it didn't meet our expectations. And I'm sure that's probably a big challenge for me, is that I just thought there'd be something more to it that I would get out of it, and I don't. Then it's like, this is boring. I don't want any more. Poof, it's gone. Get something different. Change it up. So I think about that myself, but then I think to myself, in today's society, more than ever, I think, wow, the expectations, what is going on? And the reason I'm bringing this up is, the voting, this is right now, as everybody knows, the voting is next week. So we are at the crossroads. Does this country change direction or continue the direction it's going? And I got to think to myself, if you step back and think about the last major election, this country apparently wanted change. Apparently, it wanted change. And I mean, and sincerely, right now, is anybody really happy with the change? Okay, but the change really could be used as expectations. If people went and voted for expectations of something they had in their mind would change and be better. I'm just wondering if people raise their hand and say, you know what, my expectations weren't meant, didn't come to be, and I'm going to make a different decision to do something differently this time. I would only hope this country now people would just, and I think about also, expectations or excuses. Yeah, you could go, it's infinite. And even to the point this morning, I thought, is that really the underlying excuse of things to come to be? That I can make excuses why I got rid of cars and didn't like the car and blah, blah, blah. So right now, if you just kind of step back, and we'll just use the car market. We'll just look at the car market. Because I know some people watch my channel, and I'm sure some are like, this guy's kind of going political on his YouTube channel. Well, that's fine. You can look at it that way. But the way I look at it is the governing bodies of our country are really steering us in direction, has a lot to do with cars. Can you honestly tell me the previous administration was pounding their fists for everybody an electric car? Can you tell me that? I mean, that's political. It's political. The last administration wanted fossil fuels to be the number one ingredient for energy. This administration wants nothing to do with fossil fuels. They want to get rid of fossil fuels. They'd rather see you freeze your tail off in the winter months so you don't use fossil fuels. Yeah, that's so it's a car channel, but the car channel revolves around what the governing bodies can do. So for the cars, what were your expectations? And this is what's really incredible, because when the pandemic set in, you hear over and over again so many companies talk about their expectations were the people are going to sit at home, do nothing, be scared as all get out, not spend any money. So all the major manufacturers and big companies idled everything because of the pandemic and never ever thought that there would people be coming out in droves to buy cars, motorcycles, boats, RVs, exercise equipment. The list goes on and on and on. So all those companies, they weren't expecting that by any means. So what has that done? Their expectations were low. They were the opposite. So, but what has that created? If you look at right now the car market, you look at the supply chain, you look at the whole infrastructure of our world economy right now, it's in a shambles. Because the expectations were that mankind was going to cuddle up and hide in a cave when this pandemic came in. And the opposite happened. The news media machine spent 24/7 scaring the heck out of people that sat in front of the TV. You know how many people didn't sit in front of the TV that went out and had a blast in life? Oh, yeah. Yeah, a ton of people. Yeah, a ton of people kept doing things. They didn't sit around scared to death that they're going to die. But the expectations were from most companies, and what the media machine ramped up was that people wouldn't do anything. And how wrong were they? They were wrong beyond wrong, because where are we today? Those expectations have created a huge inflation. And I know, and I talk about this a lot, that you can blame the city administration for all the inflation, but at the same time, there could be a different power in charge. I think things would be handled differently, but I don't think we would have ever escaped inflation. There's a lot of variables that are playing out. I think in the energy sector, that's a whole fiasco. I mean, I think to myself, what was anybody's expectations when Russia showed up in Ukraine's territory? It just blows me away that what do you think how do you think this is going to play out? I mean, it's beyond believable. The expectations that the world powers didn't tell that man to go home. Yeah, what has that created? So back to the car market. Look at the car market, what it's created from low expectations. And that's really what I was saying to myself this morning is, wow, more than ever, we are today living in the lowest expectations ever in our lifetime. You hear, and what it is, it's an excuse of an excuse. I mean, it's truly sad. I mean, I can't emphasize enough that I have compassion for others. I am not the person that enjoys seeing other people suffer. I'm not a person that judges people by how they look. That is not who I am. That's not how I became successful in my life. I became successful in life because people can see when they talk to me that I'm a personal person. And that has value to it. And that's why I've been very successful, because I care about others. So for me, wow, the expectations have been set lower, not higher. When I was growing up, I had huge expectations in my lifetime to accomplish things. But the media machine and the governing bodies more than ever have set the expectations lower. Even businesses have done this. I mean, I hear story after story of people going to these major restaurants like Olive Garden or Red Lobster or it's Cracker Barrel. You can go through the list of major chains. And during the pandemic and after the pandemic, the food service went out the window. It's pitiful. It's the worst. It's like they lowered their expectations. Well, why? Because people didn't go to work. People are sitting at home. The government lowered everybody's expectations by saying, hey, you don't have to rise above what you're doing. We're going to pay you to stay home because we think you're scared that you're going to get sick and die, which I'm not going down that rabbit hole with the whole pandemic thing. But the whole point is everybody lowered their expectations. I'm sure most restaurants thought to themselves, people aren't going to come out to eat anymore, so why do we need all staff? Get rid of them. It's a known fact that so many businesses laid and idled so many people. But it's a domino effect. What started back in the March of 2020 is still going on today. And then school systems. Idle kids. Does anybody remember how the kids got sent home in many, many states? And they just sat home all day with nothing to do? Does anybody remember all that? So it lowered the expectation for a kid to study and learn. And it's a known fact right now. They're showing studies left and right that during the pandemic, so many young people in this country took steps backwards, not forward. What is going on? I mean, this is disturbing. This is extremely disturbing. We live more than ever in a society where the governing body, the media machine, wants you to be less, not be more. We have now agendas where nobody gets the trophy, or I should say everybody gets a trophy. So they've lowered the standards, the expectations. The list is infinite. I could spend, I think, the whole day of evaluating so many things and so many variables, which I can't. I'm not going to do it. But go back to the car. I'm kind of jumping back and forth, and I get all that. And I'm not reading anything, you know. I mean, I'm not looking. I am just speaking off the tip of my tongue of what I see, what I think's going on. I could be wrong. I don't think I am wrong. I just can see what's going on in our society because I'm a guy that's in the streets. I see businesses. So here's the thing: for the car market, the expectations have just totally tanked. People order cars that have been waiting 2 years to get a car. Add insult to injury, your car comes in and it doesn't even have everything on it that you ordered. Or you had to make a decision. You had to pick and choose what you wanted on it or didn't want it to maybe even get it. Your expectation of that vehicle you really wanted now has been lowered. I just heard this conversation the other day that people order a platinum Ford Expedition, and when it comes in, not even all the features are on it. And the person's like, this isn't what I was expecting. I don't want this vehicle. And they walk away. What is driving this? Where is the leadership in this frickin' country and business? Think about this. People are told to go sit at home because we know. I get the pandemic. I get it. We've moved on. We have moved on. There's always going to be a virus. I was preaching this frickin' the day that virus came out. I said, it'll be never ending. There'll be viruses forever for mankind that won't stop. Why does people think that all of a sudden there's all these drugs around that just viruses disappear? I have no idea. So the expectations of people being sent home was to protect them, right? They didn't want to get sick. Correct. Okay. Well, you fast forward in time, these people came to realize sitting at home and working was just as efficient in their views as going into work. Yeah, what's now going on more than ever? People are being forced to go back into office. For that individual, their expectations are, wait a second, I did an incredible job working from home, but now I'm being forced to go back in. Well, those don't meet my expectations. I'm done. I quit. I'm going somewhere else. Which, yeah, that's going on big time. And I talked about that yesterday, is we're living in crazy times, confused times, and the job market is so huge that an individual that doesn't want to sit at home anymore and go back into the office routine, they can go work somewhere else. Maybe a different type of thing they do. Maybe it doesn't make as much work. In fact, even the point I just read that all these people's expectations of staying at home and saving money and transportation and food costs and everything else, though they're kind of now questioning if they made the right decision because they took lower paying jobs to have more flexibility. But now with the rise of inflation, they're now questioning if that really is the right decision. They may have to go back to the routine again because the inflation. Yeah, what was your expectations during the pandemic? When things at that time were relatively inexpensive at that time. Yeah, for a short, very short, brief, period, people were way ahead of the ball game. And another thing I think to myself too is the wealth in this country. Sadly, for the upper class people, they have made so much money, and they are continuing to make so much money. The lower class people, it's the same old story. They're losing footage. They're losing ground. They're not staying at pace with the upper class people. It's huge, and I just think to myself more than ever, if you look at the amount of money that the inflation has gone, like gasoline. I've talked about this even during the pandemic. I've talked about this for years. For gasoline, the $3 gas is not expensive energy. $5 gas, yes. $4 gas, for the economic times, not really. But that gets all people revved up because everybody get caught up sitting at home when the pandemic was here and we had $2 gas. So everybody's convinced that, we should all have $1.50, $2 gas. And it's just an ongoing, here's the point. Expectations. I think that people have expectations of the amount of money they make and how they spend it. And I think to a degree, it's not as accurate as they may think it is. Meaning that when I was growing up, it was very challenging to make a living and to buy things, extremely challenging. But it seems like over the last 10 years, from the stock market in itself, the wealth that's been created is beyond believable. The amount of money people have made, it's just beyond. For me, I just didn't have that foresight. I just didn't have anybody sitting next to me to say, hey, take $10,000, invest it in Amazon or in a Tesla or whatever. I didn't have anybody around to tell me to do that, which is crazy because I could have cashed out of a lot of those stocks and made a lot of money. I just wasn't brought up with that type of information. So the point is, today more than ever, people are making great sums of money. So part of me is like, a lot of people are just crying because they don't want to accept they have to pay more for things. But at the same time, I get that the lower class people are very much more challenged because it doesn't proportional to the wealth. So, and you just have to step back and say to yourself, wow, what are the expectations in our country when the governing bodies are setting everything to a lower standard? I mean, are you listening to this? The governing bodies are setting everything to a lower standard. School systems, they're setting the educational levels at a lower standard. The governing bodies are setting the policing at a lower standard. Yes, is anybody paying attention to the police or exiting the police force by the masses because they've been so disrespected? As a police officer, their expectations were to take a position as a law enforcement officer and to be supported by the community and the judicial system. What's going on? Even the judicial system isn't supporting the LEO. The district attorneys are not supporting the LEO. They're supporting the criminals. I mean, this is what's crazy. Think about this. You were brought up in this world, hopefully by your parents, to know what was right versus wrong. I mean, that's just a fundamental thing as a parent. You have to teach your child is what is right and what is wrong. More than ever, the governing bodies are teaching people what is wrong and what is right. Yes, more than ever, you have LA, New York, Chicago, San Francisco. You can just go through the list of these major cities where the district attorneys support the criminals. So the message is what that criminal did wrong is okay. It's okay to do that. Oh my gosh, this is fundamental basic learning of respect of others in our society. And once you start teaching people you can do wrong to others and it's okay, that's a huge social justice. And that's what these people will call this. Is that, oh, these people shouldn't be in jail. Who would want to ride a subway? I mean, sincerely, who would feel comfortable riding the subway in New York City? I mean, you see what goes on. I mean, sure, I know a lot of people do, but at the same time, that whole aura of you can do what you want, get away with it, and a sitting district attorney and judge will just let you walk out, and they don't even want to set bail anymore. It's beyond believable. The expectations of what this country is allowing the governing bodies and the media machine. The media machine is the worst. The media machine is the worst. It's these select individuals sitting behind a camera like me that are making these crazy statements of what's right versus wrong. It's beyond believable. I could go on and on and on and on. So people are like, yeah, it's all getting political. Your whole theme of your channel is changing. Yeah, well, in all sincereness, for me as an individual, it's a YouTube channel where I share a lot of content with me having lots of fun with motorcycles and cars and trucks, and that'll continue on. But at the same time, as an individual in today's society, seeing how the governing body of our country and the media machine of our country is ruining it, this is what they want. They want me not to say anything. They want you to say nothing. Their expectations are you're going to comply and you're not going to disagree with what they think is right versus wrong. That's the true story. And sadly for us, we have sitting powers in office that are not doing the right things. They're not doing the right things. Right versus wrong. Just as we see right now in the world, in Ukraine and Russia. I mean, just beyond believable of how the world is just sitting by and nobody will manhandle that little guy over in Russia and just put this thing to an end. Nobody will do it. Why? There's got to be a lot of underlying corrupt reasons. Yeah, I just read that there's $1 billion going to the Taliban right now. Our country sends the Taliban $1 billion. Is that right or is that wrong? What is that all about? We don't do over Afghanistan? How much money did we spend over there? How many trillions of dollars did we send over there? Right versus wrong? I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. But the thing is, what happens with expectations is when a business owner sees they can get away with lowering their standards and nobody really says much, and that is actually to their advantage as a business owner because they cut their expenses, but they make more money. That's not even been talked about more than ever is businesses have raised all their prices and everything because they have lower expectations. They have lower expectations of delivering more goods or services. So to offset that, they've jacked their prices through the roof. And you read article after article of companies, their tactic has been to counter this challenge of supply. They can't sell as much stuff. They can't get the labor in. So how they create their expectations for their profits is they just jack the rates through the roof. So you pay a ton more, and they see people will accept that. So people have lowered their standards just to accept, oh, that's just the way it is. Excuse. That's what I said. It's excuses. That's what really expectations create, is excuses. Oh, well, yeah, I understand. Yeah, right. Wow. When do we get the fearless leaders to show up? When do they show up? When does somebody grab the handles of this country and start steering a whole different direction and start creating expectations that when you get out of bed in the morning, Are your expectations to accomplish great things today? Or are your expectations just to have another day pass your life and whatever, who cares? I mean, to me, that's just okay. Well, your expectations are very low. Remember the 12 steps to think and grow rich? I mean, I've said those so many times. You have a positive mental attitude today. Do you have sound physical health? Do you have the harmony of human relationships? Do you have freedom of fear? Do you have hope of future achievement? Do you have capacity for applied faith? Do you have willingness to share your blessings with others? Do you engage in labor of love? Do you have an open mind on all subjects? Do you have complete self-discipline? Do you have knowledge which to understand others? And then the money, comes. If you can master that, and if you get to be really good, you get the 13th with the sixth sense. So to me, why did Napoleon Hill write a book called Think and Grow Rich, where he spent years of driving around the country and, or I should say, transporting around the country, getting around the country, trains, whatever. And so when he did his research, I'm sure that what he saw in all these successful people is they had higher expectations. They didn't have lower expectations. Just look at the inner city. The inner city is sad because its people are living at the lowest of expectations. And the governing bodies support it. They support the people to sit at home and not have to work so that their expectations in life aren't much of anything besides food and water and shelter. What is that all about? That's power. That's called power. More than ever, our governing bodies and big businesses would just love to see you be happy to have food and water and shelter. And there you go. Be happy. There's your expectations in life. It's ridiculous. It's a select few, the minority, that are driving this country in the wrong direction. It includes automotive industry. Why the heck does everything have to be electric vehicle? I like electric vehicles. Anybody watch my channel? I'm not an anti-electric vehicle person. I'm an anti everything has to be electric. I'm an anti that solves the world's challenges for Mother Nature. That's what you're hearing from me. It isn't that I don't like the technology and change. Yeah, but it's in moderation. That's what it should be, in moderation. It should be, and you have an option. Your expectations are, I can go out and choose what I want to choose, not the governing bodies and manufacturers are going to tell me what I have to choose, because a select minority of people on a green agenda that are heck bent on forcing everybody to drive and do certain things in transportations. That's where, to me, is very disgruntling, is that you have select people trying to empower themselves on how to rule the transportation world. All right, I'm going to kind of leave it at that. Hope everybody enjoys my channel. They're just ideas. I just try to share ideas where hopefully other people can talk amongst their friends and other people and say, hey, what are your expectations? When this is classic. During the last major election, the word was the person that's in power today. The reason that person's in power is because they settled for that person. Their expectations weren't that high. So whether you realize or not, the person that's in power today, they're not. It's people behind that person. But the person that's so-called in power today was elected by the sitting party's supporters because they didn't have much of an option, so they settled for this individual. When you settle for something, that's a very low expectation. What is everybody sit back and think this through? What comes from low expectations? I mean, sincerely. If you say to yourself in life right now, if you're very young, well, I'm just going to accept that I'm never going to rise above working at McDonald's or the gas station or being a janitor. I'm not talking about stepping stones. I'm talking about you making a decision. You're going to lower your expectation on life. That's as good as it's going to be for me. And that's just the way it's going to be. That's a total wrong way to look at life. You look at life as stepping stones. Yeah, work at McDonald's. Get people skills. Get discipline to go to work and how to be efficient and how to be nice. That's what it's all about. Yeah, to be there when you're my age, unless you're owning the place, you didn't take the proper steps in life. It's all about expectations. I set my expectations very, very high. That's the key to success in life. Look at the woman marathon, the Ironman woman that just won the Ironman marathon. A woman that's a mother just outdid all the men in Ironman. It's called Ironman, not Iron Woman. And did you think she set her expectations very low? Yeah, no. So the message is the governing bodies and companies and executives, they have set their expectations lower. It's not acceptable. They have to start setting standards higher. We have to go back to the basics of life: what's right versus wrong, and not make excuses of what you can say is wrong is right. All right, everybody. Appreciate you watching my channel. Hope this helps you have a better day. That's the goal. And you share my information with others to help others understand more on how we all can become better. That's my expectations for the day, right? Hey, have a great day and a blessed day. Stay safe. I said it right. How about that? Oh, I'm going to drop my